At 5 o'clock in the morning, it cannot be said that many households' members are deeply entranced in thought. Jack lay asleep in his bed. He was beginning a REM cycle that may just have held the answer to all his issues with intimacy, when, alas, Jack heard a crash and awoke. At that very moment, Jack's younger sister was disposing of an overnight guest. Jack's mother was trying to remember a time when she enjoyed making breakfast for the family. Jack's father was developing a passive-aggressive way to punish his family, as he was begrudgingly taking Jack's dog out for a walk, yet again. And then there was Jack's razor. Jack's razor was experiencing something more complex, more significant, and more painful than anything it had felt before. Heartbreak. The emotion was so great that only moments before Jack awoke, the razor let out a cry. This cry was so strong that it tipped the cup of toiletries off the bathroom sink and brought them all to the ground in one loud, solitary crash. It had been days since the hairbrush that had been a regular was no longer in the bathroom. Jack's razor had lost hope of the hairbrush returning, and its heart broke. Embarrassingly, Jack had only begun to shave at the age of 17. Now at the untender age of 19, Jack had never even thought of disposing of his very first razor. When Jack was finishing his shave, his razor, for the first time, gave him a little cut, seemingly saying what it thought was a worthy piece of wisdom, although Jack didn't hear it: don't ever be afraid of getting hurt. Had Jack heard this advice, he might have rejected his razor for a hopeless romantic. But because he did not hear it, but felt it, he didn't have a choice but to accept. No one at Tolly's high school believed that Tolly deserved his captaincy of the debating team. Overlooking the many better candidates, it was Tolly that was chosen. Only two entities knew the reason why Tolly was the recipient: the teacher in charge of debating and his badge. The teacher in charge of debating had, in fact, only a week prior to selection, been driving home from work at the end of a long day when she noticed Tolly sitting at the school gates, still not collected by a parent, at 17 years of age, sobbing. Uncomfortable and slightly repulsed at the thought of comforting him, she continued driving. As she pulled into her driveway, a 35-minute commute's worth of guilt and pity had accumulated, and when it came time for selection, she sought selfishly to assuage these feelings and promptly proceeded to do so. The badge on the table in front of her seemingly glinted with protest, but went unnoticed. Tolly remembered the feeling of standing in front of the assembly receiving it, and forever associated it with acceptance and respect. This morning, when Tolly picked the badge up in a ritual of nostalgia and longing for relevance, he was pricked. The badge was not sure whether it had pricked Tolly on purpose, nor was it sure whether the prick would have any significance to the plot of the episode. But the point was that Tolly was pricked. In Sara's room there lived a goldfish. It would have loved to jump out of the bowl and onto her bed, but alas, it could not. It needed to be in the water to live. In this way, the fish was constricted by the very thing that kept it alive. The irony didn't escape the goldfish. In fact, it was this very predicament that made the goldfish suicidal. But, and yes, there is always a but, the goldfish had a very short memory, and as it took exactly 2.9 seconds to come to this conclusion, over and over again, and its memory was a mere 3 seconds long, the goldfish was never able to go through with its plan, though not for lack of trying. This morning, however, it was unusually warm in Sara's room, and the folly of biology caused the memory of the goldfish to extend to 3.2 seconds. This more than adequate boost in brain power allowed for the fish to jump. As the goldfish soared through the air, only to complete its arc with a minute existential thud, its mind cried, "Freedom!" This morning, Sara was awoken by a disturbing event. she was awoken by the last feeble flops of her beloved pet on her chest. Sara cried this morning in the shower. She told herself to be strong whilst she got dressed. She remembered the many times she was grateful to have the goldfish as a pet. As she walked out the door, she made the resolution, "Oh, this is contrived," that she would live life to the fullest and that all the parts of her life would not get the best of her. Weeks ago, Jack developed a strange feeling in his stomach. It was longing. After a while, Jack had deduced that he felt this particular feeling only when he was around Tolly. At first he assumed that the repulsion he felt for his friend had manifested psychosomatically. But with each day he came closer and closer to the realization that his feelings were indeed misguided, irrational, perverse love. He noticed small things about Tolly he had never noticed before. The hair linking his left and right eyebrows, the way he misquoted lyrics to popular songs, and his nail biting. Jack found these things equally disturbing and endearing. This morning while shaving, he decided that he didn't have the stomach to continue the way he was going, and this would be the day that he had the talk with Tolly. As Tolly entered the lecture theatre this morning, he was carrying the burden of brimming self-confidence, and though uneased by this unfamiliar sensation, he had decided that he would finally ask the girl in the ridiculous hat sitting in the front row for a coffee after the lecture.
What are you so happy about?
Nothing.
What? Did they find the cure for whatever it is you have?
I don't have anything.
That's too bad.
I'm gonna do it today. I'm gonna ask the girl in the weird hat out for a coffee.
Well, what brought this on then?
Well, I woke up this morning and I just thought to myself, it can't get any worse.
Sara was rapidly searching the room. She was seeking out possible people to tell her story to. In an attempt to compensate for what may have appeared to be a lack of further attention, she cautiously gave Tolly a hug and wished him the best of luck.
Well, good luck.
Tolly did not expect this. From his perspective, Sara's looking away looked like she might have been hiding a tear, and the quiet, hollow manner with which she wished him luck seemed to him to sound regretful. Processing his impressions in his mind, he came to the only conclusion he could, that Sara liked him. Little did she know the girl in the hat sitting in the front row would escape 1 hour, 12 minutes and 42 seconds of awkward small talk with a boy named Tolly.
I really like your bracelet.
Sara was taken aback by the rare compliment.
I thought we agreed fashion sense was off the table for cool observational humour. It got really out of hand last time.
No, I like it. You look really beautiful today.
Well, thanks, I guess.
Tolly found nothing more attractive in a person than the idea that they liked him. His newfound confidence had the unfortunate effect of inflating the belief in his suspicions, and his affection shifted upon Sara. Somewhat surprised at Tolly's newfound softened manner, Sara decided she was finally comfortable enough to ask Tolly a favour.
I find this a bit uncomfortable, but here it goes.
Tolly felt a jolt in his heart as each single word was spoken, filling him with anticipation and fear.
No, sorry, you can say anything to me.
Well then, take me there.
Where?
There, you know.
Okay.
Hello.
What's up?
Just working on the show. Can't stop. I got the music in me.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that, actually.
Look, Sara, I know you want us to work your dog's cute handshake trick into the show, and I love that. Just not sure if Australia is ready for it.
Jack panicked. He wondered whether Tolly had turned his perceptive eye to his wayward glance. He desperately wanted Tolly to laugh. He risks a second glance, one affirming he hadn't been seen.
No, I mean the real show.
This is the real show. Community television, get ready. We're filming at the cafe this afternoon.
Yeah, I get it. You, me, and Tolly do a show. Cute. A nice little self-aware, self-referential self-indulgence. I'm talking about this show. The one we're in right now.
I know you wish you had cameras following you around all the time to catch your hilarious antics, but this is real life.
Jack, I think she's serious.
The horrible bias towards Sara Tolly had allowed to creep into his professional relationship was unequivocally spreading. The smallest of catalysts would lead to cataclysmic results.
Yeah, well, it's all right if you're happy with two-dimensional characters. Watch out for the plot holes you leave, Tolly.
And there it was.
Wait. Let's just say this was all a show. How could you, a creation of the writers, be aware of something that they weren't?
Don't worry about it.
The automatic doors refuse to open for Sara. The sound of rain begins in the background.
Oh, it has begun to rain.
I cannot possibly leave now. She turns and walks back to the others. What did you want to talk about? Asks Tolly. Sara looks a bit hesitant. As she stands before her maker, she experiences overwhelming awe. She succumbs control and blushes coyly at this sweet domination.
I'm not sure I really like where this scene is going.
Interjects Tolly before slapping himself in the face quite hard for no apparent reason.
That's it.
Jack stands up from behind the desk and the three now form a triangle. You don't need that stupid device, people already get it.
A clap of thunder softly booms outside.
I don't mean to be offensive, but as the episodes wear on,
I start to feel a bit left out of the plot lines.
I feel like I'm lacking
She pauses.
depth.
Jack limp-wristedly puts his hand over his heart, exaggerating offense so as to mask any real wounds.
Explains Tolly as he scurries to his numb place.
Surmises Jack as a wheelchair-bound student passes unnoticed through the scene, a moment most ripe for the darkest of comedy.
Clarifies Tolly to the sound of more metaphoric thunder.
I'm sorry, who's in charge of this scene?
Demands Sara. Well, I can't remember who originally wrote it,
But since I wrote the final draft, I guess I'm in charge of it.
explains Tolly.
I know we're a team, but this is an important scene. I think it's something more for the head writer.
There is no head writer, the job is shared.
Look, we all know what it would be like if we left most of the writing to you.
How's Juan? Do you feel like you're being invaded by the Spanish Armada?
It's beginning to feel a bit like the Spanish Inquisition. I cannot go one night out without being interrogated.
I wouldn't say no to that, bad cop.
As long as I don't have to wear those horizontal stripes.
Worrying about you just means he cares about you.
Well, I wish he'd just spend more time being overtly sensitive and less time swinging his baton around.
But I thought that's why you went out with him in the first place. Alejandro.
Fuck off, it would be much better if I wrote. If we left you alone with a word processor, then we'd all end up...
I glanced out the window today as the tram passed the school. I saw a kid leaning against a shed with two other boys looming over him. Menacingly or playfully, I couldn't really decide. What would you have done if they'd started to attack him? I don't know.
You do know.
I suppose I could have gotten off at the next stop and run back, or I could have called directory and rung the school.
But you wouldn't have done that, would you? You would have told yourself that it's all part of growing up.
and left him alone.
Who cares about reaching an audience when the critic in a fedora applauds your creation?
Shut up. Where's Sara?
Sorry, I was having a feminine moment.
Ew!
No, I wasn't. I was in the bathroom throwing up because I hate myself. No, I wasn't. Am I thin enough yet, Daddy? Do you love me yet, Daddy? Look, why do I have to be a part of your boys' club? Why can't I just express my feminine side a bit? I came here to ask, beg, for a sliver of the spotlight you two seem to share. I want to have media plot lines. I want to be unpredictable. I want a third dimension.
Are you actually saying you're a two-dimensional character?
Asks Tolly, especially cut by Sara's faux pas.
No, I didn't mean it like that.
Well, how was it that you meant it then?
Please, sir. Can I have some more?
We'll have to think about it.
And Sarah woke up remembering nothing more.
Hello, Jack. Want to grab a coffee after class?
Sure. Tolly, have you got anything on after this?
Some of you watching will recognise this look as hope, and some of you will recognise it as self-hate. You might be surprised to know that on this occasion, both answers are indeed correct.
No, nothing. It's my turn to shout anyway. Skinny latte. Sarah? Did I remember right?
Uh-huh.
It was rare that the three should attend a lecture at the same time. It seemed that a cosmic force had brought them all together on that day for a reason. It was at this point that they flew, the kind of innocent, confident flight that people experience when they are overwhelmed by an emotion of one kind. Although their bodies were present, their minds wandered and placed their bodies in entirely different places. The scenario that formed in Tolly's mind revealed an underlying sickness. Years from now, he would discover what true affection actually felt like. It would shatter the crystalline structure of delusion he had propagated to cope with, frankly, being himself.
So have you noticed how pointing out that something is awkward actually often makes it more awkward? This one time, I was sitting in my room doing what teenage boys do, and my mum walks in, and she sees me masturbating to my dog's face.
It's disgusting.
And I was like, oh my god, this is really, really awkward. But thank you and good night. You've been a great audience.
I was a fool.
Don't.
No, I have to tell you this. I was young and I was stupid and I was just so scared to let someone in.
But you said at Jack's funeral.
No, Jack's was different. We were both drunk then. But this, right here, this is real.
Come on, kid. I know a place we can go and have a cup of coffee.
I think you're right. I think these ducks do sound a bit better than the band.
What are you doing here?
Just felt like I needed to get away from it all for a bit. And besides, there was something missing.
What about Cindy?
Well, Cindy and I, we're just friends.
They'll be looking for you. Shouldn't you go back?
Nah. Come on. I've got something to show you.
What about the coronation ceremony?
How can I miss the ceremony when my queen is right here? Come on.
Sara couldn't help but to attach a wrenching longing to the scene fogging her mind. All of a sudden, she simply couldn't exist without Jack. This rush of feeling, so sudden, so unexplained and ideal, was overwhelming. However, it lacked a third dimension, a truth. Jack's desires were unwelcome. It was at this moment in the lecture theatre, sitting next to Tolly, his knee gently resting on Tolly's thigh, an unintentional folly of the theatre's seating arrangements, that Jack was able to reflect on a moment of revelation.
Well, howdy there. Are you hungry? There's nothing to be afeared of. Well, you're gonna have to come and get it. Me, Tolly. Tolly. You? You?
Well, well, well. Now looky what we've got ourselves here. Come to be the ducks, eh, Magi?
Who's your little friend?
Well, hold on there, little dove.
Me, Jack.
Watching Tolly destroyed and dejected, Jack pondered the power that we have over others and the power they hold over us. He saw, looking at the sad mess in front of him, dysfunctional, damaged goods, yet for reasons disturbing to Jack, something acutely endearing. Yes, at that moment, for the most difficult of reasons, Jack also hated Tolly a little more. But there is a risk in venturing into the deeper recesses of the mind, a price that must be paid. Little did the heroines know their flight was about to land. As Jack, Tolly and Sara walk over to their usual cafe, they begin to think of all their expectations, of what their feelings might lead to. Sara thinks of Jack. Jack thinks of Tolly. Tolly thinks of Sara. Jack re-rehearses the painstakingly scripted speech he would recite to Tolly on the empty tram ride to Central Station. Sara glanced at the law ball poster on the student notice board and wondered whether Jack might invite her to the soiree. Tolly pensively composes the poem he will haphazardly reveal to Sara, by accident, in their literature seminar that afternoon. But in one agonising moment, something invisible willed their heads to turn. Perhaps the relish of blossoming love, or the beginnings of another fantasy forming in the back of their minds. But regardless, in synchronicity that could only arise from spending too much time together analysing and digging and searching and breaking down, their heads turned, and each noticed what the other had been looking at, and what that look meant, and what that look implied. They saw this naked, vulnerable love in each other. It caused each to seize up in their body, their heartbeats synchronized in common, simultaneous panic. And for the first time in their friendship, none could utter a word.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna go actually. I might give it a miss.
Yeah, I'm gonna go work on the show. Got plenty of editing to do. Not really happy with the ending of episode 4.
Okay, bye.
Yep. See ya.
See ya.
And now you can all fuck off.